Hey, what's up, guys? Hey, Gemini. I'm back with another video, and today I'm going to be talking about the Sammartino Vince McMahon feud, and maybe what's the source of their beef and why they've had some problems through the years. I was kind of interested in this topic to see what's been going on with Sammartino and McMahon and why they truly hate each other. So I did some research on the internet, and we'll go over that here in just a minute. But first off, Best of Nitro, Volume 2 out today. It's absolutely outstanding. YWC back in full effect. I've seen about 5 or 6 videos on that now. That's how we roll here in the YWC. So I'm also hearing some things in the rumor mill about possible new Hall of Fame inductees this year, possibly Mr. T, possibly Cyndi Lauper, or possibly DX going to the Hall of Fame this year. So anyways, I was just kind of curious about what the hell was going on with McMahon and Sammartino, and why they had beef for 30 years. And all I can think about is, and I did a little research too, and we'll go over that here in a second. But I was thinking, okay, so Sammartino was Vince McMahon's dad's champion back in the 70s. So Bruno is on top of the wrestling world, 60s and 70s, and he's making all the money. He's the big star. But then Vince McMahon Sr. gets pushed out of the equation, and Vince McMahon Jr. all of a sudden is in charge, and so Bruno gets pushed out, and new flashy, entertaining wrestlers get put in the spotlight. So Bruno's pissed because he's like, "Hey, what the hell? I've been busting my ass. I'm a hard-working wrestler, and I've been selling out the Garden for 20 years. What's going on? Why is Vince McMahon Jr. going in a different direction?" And so I think that there was some resentment how Bruno got pushed out for more of the entertainment side of wrestling, which Vince McMahon Jr. brought was more the entertainment with Hulk Hogan, Rock and Roll Connection, all that stuff in the 80s. And so Bruno, being a scientific wrestler, kind of got pushed out. So I think Bruno's pissed at this point. And from what I was reading about, Bruno Sammartino apparently has a problem with the direction that WWE, WWF has gone through the years with the storylines and with the obscenity, the naked women, and just the overall direction of wrestling, because wrestling has transitioned from an on the mat scientific sport to, say, a low rated porn show. In a lot of ways, it's kind of gone to that. It's kind of gone back the other way, where it's a little bit more about wrestling. But back when Sammartino did it, guys would go out there and sometimes wrestle for 75 minutes a match. And so this was the school that Sammartino came up with, and you know, he was used to that. Hold on, I got a text from my information source here. Okay, here's something else on Bruno right here. Bruno is here. I'm gonna read this to you guys. Okay, here we go. See, because I got a guy in New York who's a fucking pro at this. Let me read it to you. And this is because I asked my buddy, and I'm like, dude, why does Bruno and Vince hate each other? Bruno is very old school. He never did drugs, and he hated what was happening to the wrestling business with all the drug abuse and steroid abuse going on. He wanted Vince to clean it up in the 80s, but Vince was right in the middle of all that, even doing steroids himself. Plus, there was no way Vince was going to clean up the steroids in the mid 80s, especially when Hogan, the Bulldogs, the Warrior, Powers of Pain, and all those guys were making money. So, Bruno didn't like the direction that WWE was going, and so he had a major problem with Vince McMahon. He didn't like Vince. And so supposedly what happened was in 2004, Vince came to Pittsburgh. Sammartino's a huge homer for Pittsburgh, Kurt Angle, all that stuff. He came to Pittsburgh. He said, "Hey, Bruno, we're going to do a DVD on you in 2004." And Bruno's like, "Ah, fuck that. I want nothing to do with your show." But Bruno would only go to a live Raw if Kurt Angle, Pittsburgh, would be on the show. And I'm like, dude, you're way too homer for Pittsburgh. Triple H and Chris Benoit were gonna wrestle that main event. And Chris Benoit's from Atlanta. If he would have been from Pittsburgh, would you watch him wrestle? I mean, it's not all about Pittsburgh, but just my point is, so Bruno being so old school, he don't like the direction Vince took it, and they haven't spoken in like 30 years or something. It was actually Triple H who made this thing happen because Bruno hates Vince so much. And I mean, you can't blame Bruno for not wanting to be involved with all the drugs and stuff. And so Bruno, I think, came up in a time in wrestling when wrestling was about the sport and was about in-ring competition. And so Bruno's resentful of what the business became, which became more of a show. Half-naked women, guys with huge muscles that they didn't earn themselves. They earned those muscles from taking drugs. Big paychecks. Because, Bruno, I mean, he made a lot of money, but he didn't make nearly as much as some of the stars made today. So anyways, that's my thoughts on why Bruno and Vince have had some problems through the years. Bruno's a real outspoken critic of Vince. Hopefully they'll squash it, make some, Bruno DVDs, and they'll move on and get over their beef. But anyways, I'm Jem. Thank you for watching.